Welcome to the Money Making Money podcast with your host, George Apicano, Albert Ceja, Mark Anderson, and our very special guest, Brayand Ponciano.
Yo, what's up, guys?
How's it going, Brian?
I am fucking amazing.
Same.
Can I say fucking amazing?
You can say whatever you want.
Perfect.
Just know that's on you, though.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't give a shit about that. Sometimes, like, people are like, our audience is a little bit more conservative or whatever, so I don't know how much of myself I can be.
We're still
Be
trying
your
to
true self. Yes.
Absolutely. You got to get me the name and number of your guy who did your rap at the beginning of your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Dude, isn't that the shit?
Yeah, that is pretty
Dude,
cool.
I've never imagined, at least in my childhood, probably in my recent years I did, but in my childhood, that I would have a theme song.
All right.
You know, that I would have a fucking rap song that was written specifically for me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right. So, so a little bit of history about you, right? You're into multi-unit investing. You started off, like the struggles of everyday.
I'm hitting my fucking vape pen.
Right.
Held that in longer than I thought.
Oh, we're recording too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, I came from nothing. I do own a few multifamily units. So me and my business partner Chris, I think we're at about 100 and something doors at this point right now. We do own a few different units. I've been in the real estate industry for 14, going on 15 years, something along those lines.
Okay.
So I've started from wholesaling to, I started door knocking. Then we did wholesaling, then fixing and flipping, then buying and holding, multifamily. And now I've actually moved into Ohio where I'm buying a lot more smaller single families. But the long-term goal of that is to eventually turn those into notes. So I'm moving into the note space.
Oh, really?
But nonetheless, I'm always growing, always evolving.
Right. Just same thing. More education, more knowledge, and then you keep going. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you just started up your new podcast, right? Unfuck Your Mind.
I did. I just launched that podcast called Unfuck Your Mindset. And in going in hand with the podcast, I just launched a program. Well, I'm about to launch a program on Monday, so I don't know when this shit comes out. But next week, I'm launching a program called Unfuck Your Mindset. So you can go to unfuckyourmindset.com to get a little bit more information about that, to get signed up for the I'm doing a launch special for it. But anyway, I was doing a lot of public speaking because of my background. You know, growing up in the hood, growing up in South LA. I was never in gangs myself, but I was always in and around gang activity, and people around me did it. Growing from that to being a quote-unquote successful real estate investor, even when I was just fixing and flipping, people wanted me to speak on their stages. So I was always asked to speak. And I've noticed that a lot of people didn't have the right mindset. There was something different between me and those other people, because I saw those other people show up at all the same places that I've been to. Then they show up to the places where I'm speaking. Then they show up to the other places that I've been to. They're still in the same fucking place.
Yeah, you were the speaker. Yeah.
Well, but I had met them before when I wasn't the speaker. So we had already heard the same information. It wasn't that somebody told me something differently than told them or whatever. Yeah. They just didn't have it correctly in their mind. And when I started speaking, then people were asking me about coaching, and I went into coaching people how to do real estate. But I quickly realized that people don't they don't really know how to follow instructions, nor do they really understand the mind that it takes to get it forward. So even when I was telling them, even people that paid me to coach them, I would literally hold their hand and walk them through it, and they still wouldn't do what needed. So I decided that, just take a step back, and I realized that the biggest thing that separated me and them is the mindset. Going and working on my mindset. So that's why I launched a podcast called Unfuck Your Mindset. If you're looking for it and it's not on, well, actually even on iTunes, the for fuck needs to be a star.
Yes.
If not you can't find it, but it's under Unfuck Your Mindset.
I had a problem doing that too. I was looking for it, and I was looking on a podcast one, and I said, okay, no, I tried looking at the other one, like, maybe it's that thing. And then they put that thing, it's like,
that's exactly what it was. A lot of people message me, a lot of people that don't have iTunes. So I've been pushing it on social media, but the link just goes to iTunes, which man, quick fucking pat in the back to myself. We were charting last week and this week, and we're still charting here for the shit that we're doing. But my girl just sent me a message that we're charting in Guatemala.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Look at that, dude.
Fucking crazy, right?
Well,
It's crazy,
the first
yeah.
couple episodes you did in...
I did in Thailand, yeah.
in Thailand, yeah.
And they sound like shit, by the
Yeah,
way.
because
You guys have an awesome fucking
But-
setup over here.
But then again, you said you were doing it in the bathroom, too.
I did it in a bathroom. There was no soundproofing.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a good mic. It was this cheap,
Yeah, you-
shitty mic that I fucking plugged it into
there?
the bottom of my phone. Yeah, that was, dude. I went to the mall, and it was like the biggest mall in Phuket, and you couldn't find shit. It was all, it was nice. Like, it's a nice place, but they just didn't really have what we needed. So they sound like shit.
Yeah, no. But it's good. Hey, and that's the thing, though, right? Go back to mindset. You did it.
Yeah.
You
no
took
matter
the
what.
action. You started, and then it went, right? And 9 times out of 10, when people are out there and they're listening and this and that, they don't even take the action.
Most people are professional learners.
Yeah.
They're professional learners. You'll see them at all the different events. You'll see them at all the different networking stuff. You'll see them going and they say, yes, I got it. We'll do it. And then they never fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they never fucking do it.
Right.
And that was, I think, really the thing that set me apart when I first moved into the real estate firm was that I actually did it.
Right away? Or-
Well, yeah, so my very first experience in real estate, I answered this guy's ad on Craigslist, and it just said something like, "Hey, if you want to come and learn, you can whatever." So I just showed up, and he needed door knockers. I didn't know what a door knocker was, but
Right.
that's what he needed. And he was like, "I'm leaving this company that I'm with. I'm starting my own company. I need people to door knock the door for me. I'll give you leads. I'm not gonna pay you for shit. And if you find a deal, then you let me know. We'll bring in our other guy who's our closer, and then he'll get the deal." And he offered me a percentage of the profit,
Right.
which
Profit.
in that case was 25% of the profit. I didn't know anything like
Right.
shit. I didn't know nothing about real estate. I didn't know shit
So
about
that was like the first experience with that to getting into real estate?
Yeah,
That?
yeah.
Really? Wow.
Hey, was
I did-
this in Arizona in summer?
That was in Phoenix. It was not when I first started door knocking. It wasn't in the summertime. It was
Okay.
right about this time of the year.
Oh, okay.
And then it obviously
Right,
a few
got
months later
hotter,
it's
right.
fucking hot as fuck.
Exactly, no shit.
And I didn't have air conditioning on my car. I was driving. I mean, I
Oh,
was hoping
dude.
that my fucking car made it to the houses that I was trying to door knock.
Yeah. What area were you door knocking? And tell us a little bit more of like how that first deal went. How did it go down?
So here in Phoenix, we have the west side of Phoenix, which is known as Maryvale. That's the area we were at. So I was living in Maryvale, and once again, I didn't really have a good car, so I decided to go over there. Second thing was that Maryvale is a high Hispanic population, and I'm Guatemalan. I'm bilingual, so I know how to speak Spanish. So that made it a little bit easier for me, and it gave me a slight advantage, even though everybody fucking speaks Spanish out in Maryvale. So that's where I went, and it didn't bother me. A lot of the people that were in the industry, now you go into these meetings and you go into the networking events, and there's a lot more color in the room.
Yeah.
There's a lot more brown people. There's a lot more black people, and there's a lot more young people in the room.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
true.
When I first started 15 years ago, that was a lot less. So a lot of the people that were there door knocking weren't going to go to South Phoenix, weren't going to go to West Phoenix. Like, oh, that's
Really?
scary. Like, I don't want to do that. And I lived there. So anyway, what I did was he just gave me a list. It was pre-foreclosures. I went and I knocked on that person's door, just like we knock on people's door all the time. Back then, this was 2006. So it was
before the market.
ridiculously competitive. Yeah, before the market crashed, everybody was going after pre-foreclosures. So you would, just like here in Phoenix, where if you send a mailer, the person's going to be like, I got 20 of those sitting right here.
Yeah.
You would literally go to people's door, and there would be 5 or 6 flyers that people left there from door knocking. That, hey, you're not home, I missed you. And that's not even including how many people slipped it through there, how many people left it in the mailbox.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is illegal,
yeah.
by the way. So, there was other creative ways to kind of leave it in or around the mailbox. Shit like that you had to figure out. But anyway, I knocked on this person's door, and this guy was just kind of, it was probably like, fuck, dude, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. It had just started getting a little dark. I talked to him. I walked inside, and I was like, I'm here. You're in pre-foreclosure. Now, mind you, most people, when they get into pre-foreclosure, they don't like to admit it, especially if you're door knocking.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the fucking 100th person knocking on their door.
Yeah.
That's not including the phone calls that they were getting and
Right.
the letters that they were getting. So they were just like, yeah, whatever, go fuck yourself. That was,
And then on top of that, they think you're a representation of the problem that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes I think more of it was just them not. A lot of it was source of pride. People don't like to admit that they're in trouble. And then second of all, that's their biggest investment. So a lot of times in that time in 2006, a lot of people had pulled out equity from their house.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
refinancing their
That's
house
when
and
right
fucking
before.
using them like
That's
personal
true.
credit cards,
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
So then when the market started tanking, then everybody was caught with their pants down because they were borrowing everything, thinking that their property was just going to continue going up anyway. So anyway, people were just embarrassed, really embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I talked with him. We sat down. He's like, yeah, I'm interested in buying that property, or I'm interested in selling that property. So I said, perfect. I called my guy. We showed up the next day. So we literally showed up the next day, and hey, we brought a contract. We're here to sign. We signed with the guy, and everything goes fine. Everything's sounding fine. Everything's going fine. Everything's good. I was like, oh, that was my first deal.
Right.
We're fucking good to go, right?
And how long did it take you to land that contract?
Oh, fuck,
Was
dude.
it
I
like-
was door knocking for 6 to 8 months before I got that contract.
Oh,
Wow.
And I was
Jeez.
doing this pretty much on a full-time basis, minus whatever I had to work to kind of make a little bit
Yeah,
of money
right,
at that time.
right.
But yeah, it took a long time. And mind you, there wasn't no, hey, buddy, good job, keep it up, coming to the
You gotta
office,
stay
the
motivated
team.
yourself.
Like,
yeah.
fuck that, dude. He fucking. That I would literally drive to the office in Scottsdale just to pick up the
list.
list because I didn't have a computer, I didn't have a fax machine, I didn't have a scanner, printer, none of that shit. So I had to drive all the way to the other side of town to go back to my side of town to then go knock on the door because I found that it was better to door knock in the evening time when people were
Yeah,
home,
people
right?
Or
Yeah,
home, you
yeah.
get more response. Yeah.
So anyway, we locked up this deal. We set it up. We were gonna make 10 grand on the deal, and my cut was gonna be 2,500. I remember I was super excited. The only time that I had ever seen 2,500 at one pop was fucking tax return
Tax
time. Because fuck, I mean, I grew up poor. We didn't know any different.
So was this at that same time when you were like, man, $100 is like super
$100
huge,
is a lot of money. Yeah,
right?
back then, hell yeah,
Right.
man.
Yeah, in your podcast you mentioned that, and I was like, oh,
I remember, just getting quarters to go get, 2 tacos at Jack in the Box.
Jackson Bucks.
Or back when they had the jumbo jack for 99
Yeah,
cents or
yeah.
whatever. I remember that vividly. I remember a point in my business where I was eating top ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner
Wow.
for not just for like a few days. I'm talking about a few months, probably closer to a fucking year.
Yeah.
Just constantly,
Yeah.
always doing this shit. So I was literally like $2,500. That's a lot of fucking money, man. This is fucking great. This is awesome. The next fucking day, we find out that the guy signed a contract with a different wholesaler who offered him more money the very next day. So he had signed let's say he signed a contract with us on Tuesday. On Wednesday, he had signed a contract with a different guy.
Mm-hmm.
So my investor, which is a lesson that you guys should learn, especially if you're new, but he didn't record our contract until Thursday. So the other wholesaler signed it on Wednesday, and then he recorded his contract on Thursday. So he was literally like above us, right? So we had to threaten the seller with the lawsuit and, this is bullshit, and we're going to take you to court and this and that. So we actually made him give us the $5,000 additional or whatever. I don't know how the fuck they worked it out, but basically he ended up giving us some money because he didn't want to avoid all this problem.
Okay.
Because he had already signed a contract with us and then signed a contract with somebody else.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
And then did the process take long? Like, did it take like 30 days, 45 days for you to get paid? How did that work?
We got paid at closing. I want to say that I got paid probably 30 to 45 days after that.
Okay.
Right after that, though, as I said, it took me about 9 months to get my first deal, but right after that, I got one the very next week.
Nice.
So what ended up happening was that I got paid out on both of those deals. And the wholesaler, the investor that I worked for, he wouldn't do a deal. His minimum was $10K. If he couldn't make $10K spread on a deal, it wasn't even worth his fucking time.
Really? Okay.
He was seasoned already. He had,
Yeah.
he had been doing this. This was the market back then was crazy. Deals were all over the place, so it just made sense. So I made, we made $10K on each one, so I made $5,000. I remember going to the fucking office and picking up a check for $5,000. And then I didn't even have a fucking bank account, bro.
Back then too.
So I had to go to.
They gave you a check, and you're like, "What do I do?"
Yeah,
with
well, I
checks?"
had to go to his bank. I already knew what the fuck to do with it.
I already had it planned out.
And then they had to give it to me in cash. And I'm driving back home with fucking $5,000 cash, and they gave them to me in 20s. So it was a stack of fucking money,
He's like, I gotta get a couple rubber bands. I gotta find a shoebox.
Oh my god! Oh, I felt like a fucking badass that day. That's for damn sure.
What I take away from that though is you took your time, got your first deal, but once you got your first deal, you took that momentum, got your second one, right
away.
And
I learned.
How did that help you get rolling, essentially, to where deals were on a...
Or if you don't mind us asking, did you use that money to reinvest?
Fuck no, I was a fucking idiot. I was a fucking idiot. I used that money to survive, man.
But
I got tired of eating top ramen.
but you knew what real estate could get you now.
I knew what it could get me.
Yeah.
And the thing about that was that fucks you up mentally.
Yeah.
Like, you guys know me personally, but I only date beautiful women. Like, you're never going to see me out in public with a woman who's not super beautiful. The first beautiful woman that I ever slept with fucked my mind up because I said, I can get a girl like that. I can never go back to a regular girl, But back to your question. So basically, what I realized from that process was that I took my time to learn how to do it right.
Yeah.
And most of you motherfuckers out there are so hell-bent on getting it done fast that you never worry about learning how to do it right.
Yeah.
Because you're so fucking... Now, mind you, most people out there are in a better position than I was when I first started.
It's gotten easier to... Well, not easier. Not saying easier, but there's more like technology, all that stuff.
It's gotten way fucking easier, dude. There wasn't anything as a text blast. There wasn't anything as a fucking ringless voicemail campaign. There wasn't any of that, which is good and bad because the bad side of it is that it's made it easier, so now anybody can come in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot lower point of entry, so any of these motherfuckers a la 2005, 2006, when all these motherfuckers were buying real estate thinking they were geniuses, any motherfucker could come into the business, put out some random campaign, get a deal, make 10 grand, and now they think they're fucking Jesus.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the validity of the long term.
Yeah.
That was the biggest lesson for me was the long term, but doing it right. Now, look, you guys may be like, I don't know, cold calling, that's scary for me. But there's nothing fucking scarier than door knocking. And there's nothing that's scarier than door knocking in the hood when it's dark. Like, there's absolutely not. You can hide on the fucking text. You can email somebody.
People can yell at you or text you back saying fuck off or anything. That's it. But when they tell you in person or, a confrontation like that, it's different.
Right. And sometimes because you're in the hood, and aggression is a lot more prevalent.
It's heightened.
And you're coming at nighttime, and you're talking about something that's talking about their manhood, their family. Dude, a lot of the times, like, these people didn't even tell their wife and their kids that their house was going. They found out because I was knocking on their door. Yeah, and hey, man, is your dad home? Well, I'm trying to talk to them about the house. About what? No. Like the wife sometimes. I remember one time fucking the lady got on, man. And I'm like, is your husband home? Because the house was in his name. She said, about what? Oh, fucking, it's about the house. And I already knew what it was about. What? Well, I'm his wife. Well, I don't really want, but I'm his wife. Well, that's because the house is going to foreclosure. What the fuck?
Yeah. She's finding
So I learned how to do it the hard way.
Yeah, that's really the hard way.
But I also paid the price.
Right.
which is what a lot of these young new
not.
people don't really understand, is that they're not paying the price.
Yeah.
Right.
We're in a hot market. Not only is Phoenix itself a hot market, but we're in a hot time of our market, which is a seller's market.
Yeah.
They think that they're killing it, but just like everybody else that was killing it before the crash, once the shit hits the fan, which it will, we don't know how it will, but somehow it will. A lot of people are gonna lose their fucking ass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to not
lose your ass in that situation, in any situation.
Not only I did lose my ass because I wasn't.
You weren't immune to it.
I wasn't immune to that. Thank you. Like I did lose my ass. However, I learned how the long term worked. So I understood that once the market came and it washed everybody away, I paid attention to who stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Fuck, these motherfuckers know something."
Oh
Let me hang out with them. Let me bring them. And even if it took like, now I have to door knock again. Now I have to put out bandit signs, which is what I started doing at that time.
Yeah.
I started putting out bandit signs for other investors as a way to make money and as a way to meet other investors. And that's how I learned that the bandit sign thing was also the long game. I never said, "Hey man, I will have dreams of being a bandit sign guy," putting out bandit signs in the middle of the night, having no fucking life on a weekend because those are the busy days for bandit signs.
Yeah.
I never set out to do that, but that fucking company fed my family for God knows how many years. I ended up gifting that company to my brother one time because I was like, it's not worth it. Like, I'm already making too much money in real estate here.
Yeah.
Take this shit.
Yep. So yeah, I've door knocked. Albert has door
I've
knocked.
done that for retail real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Mark, looks like you got to go and knock on some doors.
Yeah, no, I remember I got into when I got my real estate license about 4 or 5 years ago. But before I got my real estate license, I was like, I want to do some wholesaling. So I started doing bandit sites, and I looked up some videos on YouTube. And you were one of those videos.
They're still there?
Yeah, they're still there. You were telling, giving...
Bandit Signs 101.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested, they're still there. Honestly, I never finished the series, but I did 4 videos on avoiding the sign police.
Yes, that's what I was going to tell you. And you did those videos about what to look at when you put it at the bandit signs, and then you had your business there. I actually had you put bandit signs for me once.
Nice.
Well, your company did. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, too. That was crazy, though.
It was such a need, but... One of the things that I realized from doing it the hard way, the long way, was that I earned it. It wasn't something that was just given to me.
Yeah.
So because I earned it, I can earn it again.
Yeah.
And this time it shouldn't take as long to earn it because I've already fucking earned it before. Yeah. And the first time that I earned it, nobody gave it to me.
Yeah.
So, and it was one of those things where the guy who I worked for was not a friendly guy per se. He wasn't an asshole. He wasn't like a mean boss or anything like that. But there wasn't nothing other than, here's your list. Do you have somebody for me? No? Okay, well then go fucking knock on the door. Leave me the fuck alone. The fuck do you want? That was the case. So I really had to learn. And as I said, I mean, you can be successful in real estate without door knocking. That you don't have to door knock. That's not what I'm saying. However, if you want to guarantee long-term viable success in real estate, get really, 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 really good at door knocking because nothing is as hard as fucking door knocking.
Yeah.
Everything else is easier.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like it doesn't get harder than that.
Yep.
Exactly.
So
And
if you can get pat that down to, get it done real good, everything else is gonna be easy.
Right. And that's
So
always
much
seems
easier.
to be the cost of entry, right? That even though one of my door knocking stories, right? So went out pre-foreclosure list or whatever. Guy calls, I knock on the door and he's like, get the fuck off of my house or whatever, right? And then I go, look, hey, I'm here to help. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm actually here to buy or whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna get my shotgun and you get the fuck off of my property. Yeah. So that seems to be some of the lessons that you have to kind of learn, right?
Yeah.
You have to you have to roll with these punches.
You have to go through it.
Right.
You're never, man. So my nephew is now 18. I remember when he was about 2 to 4 years old, somewhere in that age range. we used to go down to fucking Walmart at the $5 DVD bins. Remember that
Oh,
shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he fucking loved the Ninja Turtles. Loved the fucking Ninja Turtles. So I bought him a little 5 DVD, and I used to always like, I've never really liked to work that hard. So I was chilling with him. I was smoking weed, and I'm watching him and shit. And we would put on the Ninja Turtles, and I'd just sit there and watch it with him. One of the episodes, Master Splinter said something along the lines of, in the road of life, when given 2 choices, always take the harder road. And I was, it just resonated with me back then. And I don't know why I still remember. It's fucking Ninja Turtle. It's fucking cartoon. But I still remember it to this day.
That is
and I realized why he said that, because it builds that character.
Yeah.
It's harder. It's rougher. It's tougher. One of the reasons why I go traveling solo, like I did to fucking Thailand. Most people don't have the balls to leave and not know where they're gonna stay, not have any plans. What do you mean you're gonna go to a country where you don't know the fucking language and you have no contacts out there, and you're just gonna figure it out and wing it for 2 weeks? The fuck is wrong with you?
That's so true,
that was a way of me putting myself into something that's harder. Right, and door knocking, in my opinion, if you're starting with wholesaling, one of the hardest things to do. And if you can do that, everything else is easier.
Right, and it's the conversations, right? Once you start mastering those conversations with people, especially people that are in trouble and they need your help. Once you master that conversation, all of a sudden things change, right? Because then after
talking to somebody who is losing their biggest investment. Is they're most embarrassed. They feel like a fucking idiot. They're whatever. Yeah. And trying to talk to them after they're completely annoyed by everything else and every other part of their life sucks too. You can talk them into letting them know, hey man, I'm here to do this. Here's what I can do to help you. Having a conversation with the buyer is nowhere near as fucking hard.
No.
Having a conversation with the money lender where I'm like, hey, dude, I can make you 10%, 12% return. That's not as bad as, hey, bro, you're losing your fucking house.
Right.
So it doesn't get as hard as that. And those tough conversations are usually the ones that really make you. You guys know my brother; he's a comedian, right? And
we've had him on our other podcast.
Yes, on the Two Amigos podcast. And one of the things that I really like about comedians, because I really enjoy comedy myself, I just don't have the time to develop my act, is the fact that you have to develop your act. Yeah. You have to go and bust your fucking face. And the times that you got booed, the times that you stumble and fumble, the worst fucking showings are usually the best things for you moving forward, because now you learn, you're, oh, fuck, man, shit, that fucking sucked. That was embarrassing. I'm never doing that again. Like, let me make sure how to fix that. So the times that you fuck up when door knocking, the conversations that you have, the ones where people slam at you and pull a gun on you and say this shit and that shit.
It's the same thing,
Right. That builds the character to eventually, when you're doing something bigger, it doesn't really... it's not as hard.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's definitely.
Now, you didn't even have like devices or anything like that back then. How did you take what didn't work when you were door knocking and try to perfect that when you didn't have like something to monitor yourself with to figure that out?
You had no KPIs.
Yeah, no, there was no KPIs. There was
no cell phone to listen to your conversation.
Driving for dollars. None of that shit.
No, they were we were still using flip phones back then. Yes, you were the shit. If you had a Palm Pilot, that was the next. That was like the first smartphone, right?
Yeah. Even YouTube didn't have information, right? They only had like videos of like some short stories.
There wasn't like what we have here.
Right,
we don't. Nowadays, you can go and you can look on YouTube, and there's countless of information. There's a lot of different meetups now. There's a lot of programs that are very, very affordable for people, monthly programs or whatever. We didn't really have that back then. There wasn't a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I learned what is the most important part of the door knocking, which is conversations. Mm-hmm. I honestly, when I moved into the other aspects of the business, I found out that was the most important part of that aspect of that business too. So when I went from door knocking to actually this position and selling properties, what was the conversation that I had with the fucking investors, the buyers?
Right.
Yeah.
When I went to buying and fixing and flipping, that was the conversations that I had with my lenders, or the hard money lenders, or the private money lenders, or the gap funders, or whatever. The conversations that I had with the wholesalers as to why they wanted to bring me a deal as opposed to posting it out or bringing it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that I needed to get better in my conversations, because it wasn't going to be a harder conversation than, dude, you're losing your fucking house.
So what
I
did
can
you
help you.
do? Did you go to mom and just start chatting with her, or did you go out to complete strangers and have whole conversations with them?
I
What
just
type
I
of-
just door knocked.
You kept on door
I
knocking.
just kept on door knocking until I got better at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
there you go.
That was really the big thing. So let me rewind this just a little tiny bit so you guys understand. Before I got into real estate, back when I was 22, so just a few years before real estate, I had met this company that taught me how to sell in the street. And basically, we just went from business to business, which this place I hit up many fucking times. The office where you guys are at, I
Really?
hit up many times. Yeah, most of the time I couldn't come into this door, but you
Oh, look
know.
at that. Now you're the echelon.
I was a solicitor. We sold anything from attache bags to lighters to coloring books to anything, like just all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that we learned is just talk to people. Just learn to talk to them and get them to fucking talk. Talk about whatever. Hey, man, you got an iPhone? I got an iPhone, too. That's
Yeah.
cool. Where'd you get the sweater
Yeah.
at, bro? That's fucking cool. I like that color. Is
Yeah.
that a black or is that like
Yeah.
a jet black? Whatever. Fucking.
Who's your
you
cell phone
talk about-
carrier? That's
It was.
Yeah.
You can always find something to talk about.
Yeah.
So obviously, door knocking, having the conversation about their house was not a particularly comfortable conversation for them. So you would always try to find a way to break the ice. Find a way. Oh, you're as soon as they open the door. Oh, you're a Chiefs fan? Yeah. Oh, did you catch the game last week? Oh, did
Yeah.
you see so and so? Yeah. Blah blah. Oh, dude, your fucking neighbor, dude. Did somebody tell did that does ever whatever you could to try to get the conversation going.
Yeah.
So when I got to door knocking, I just realized that I have to continue door knocking. When we were selling stuff in the street, eventually after selling this same bottle of water to 200 different people over the last 3-4 weeks, I kind of find things that work.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you're thirsty, or blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, like some stupid joke, some stupid saying, some stupid whatever. People have their tendencies. So when I moved into real estate and wholesaling in general, and I was door knocking, I found similarities that I can talk to people about,
Okay.
different ways to kind of get them to open up.
Yeah.
And in my perspective, with my personality, a lot of it was either jokes
Yeah.
or finding ways to talk about anything, like anything. It doesn't have to be about real estate. Like, you're not talking about that particular house. You just want to get them fucking talking.
Yeah, talking. Okay.
Got you. All right. So then now mindset, right? So then all of a sudden you've done a little bit of wholesaling, you did a little bit of real estate, you dibbled and dabbled, and then what started to develop that mindset?
Yeah.
What started? What peaked? What was that transition? What was that transition like?
When I just got started in the business, so I was door knocking for that guy that I told you.
Right.
I met one of his buyers, so one of the guys that he would wholesale to, and he was right about my age. And anyway, this guy invited me over to his house, and we used to go to his house all the time. I remember because he rented out a house. I was living in an apartment at that time, or a condo or whatever. So we would go to his backyard and get cheap weed, like fucking dirt Mexican weed, and a 12-pack of like fucking High Life,
Oh,
Miller High Life.
Wow.
So like the cheapest you could fucking get. I mean, might as well have been
good
fucking.
old
I like Miller High Life. I like it.
Out of-
champagne and beer.
Yeah,
Right,
the champagne.
champagne
Out of
beers.
out of all the cheap American beers, I personally believe that High Life
High
is
Life
the
is
better
the best.
tasting one. Out of all the cheap ones,
Right,
right? Anyway, we used to go back there and we used to just sit in his backyard and fucking from his backyard you could see Camelback, and we would just dream and think, and we want to do this, we want to do that in here. So he had been into personal development for a while, and he gave me this book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And the reason why I bring up this book was I came from a very religious household. So anything that sounded like religion when I was a young adult was very off-putting to me. So to me, personal development sounded religion-y, kind of hoo-boo-dee-dee, like, whoa. And so I turned my ear off to a lot of it. When I got that book, the Power of Your Subconscious Mind, the guy was a doctor. I'm pretty sure he was a scientist or something, but he gave everything from a very logical, scientific perspective. So where he said this, a study showed this, you can actually go to the back of his book, and there was a referencing the exact study for what university or whatever took the study, and blah, 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 blah. And he talked about how your subconscious mind is like he's the analogy that he used that resonated most with me was that you're like a submarine, and your mind, your subconscious mind is like the engine. But when you're in an engine in a submarine, if you're in an engine room in a submarine, you can't see what's going on. You're just powering through. Yeah. Now, your conscious mind is the periscope, what allows you to look out and shit. So the conscious mind, which is what we think all the constant time, like that's really what guides us. But the power behind it was the subconscious mind, which really controls like our breathing, our blood flow, healing, all the other stuff that we don't really think about, right? So at that point, it just became very clear to me that the mind was going to control everything that I did. And I was still fairly young at that point, and I remember I looked at it and I said, yeah, that's cool. And I read another one or two books about the subject, but I never really paid too much attention. Now, I paid attention to it. I just didn't really spend too much time trying to work on my mindset. I just knew that my mind controlled me. And I kept on catching myself slipping. And I remember this one time where I have two older kids. My son is now 17 and my daughter's 14. When they were younger, when me and their mom split up, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't super cool either. Yeah. And there was this time where we had decided to meet at this place at this one time, and she showed up like 30 minutes late. And I remember that I was upset, but I made myself more upset the longer the time passed. I just kept on going over my head like, fucking bitch, fucking... and then I getting more mad, like, you're just fucking, like, it just continued. That was the example that I used, but there was a lot of times where I noticed, like, my mind was the one fucking me up. So fast forward a few years after that, about 9 years ago, I met my current mentor, Jeff Fagan, who runs something called the Phoenix 2% Club. And he talked about mindset too. Now, he had recognized that I was a little bit more open to the concept, so he invited me to his class, and I went and he talked about it, and I'm like, man, this shit is really, really awesome. At that particular class, we studied a book called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And one of the things that intrigued me was that I didn't know any authors beforehand. Like, you read a Robert Kiyosaki book, and I don't know him or disknow him or whatever, but you don't know if that motherfucker's telling you the truth or not. He may be making up something. He may be pretending, whatever. When I went to Jeff's class, Jeff is like, the author of the book is named T. Harv Eker. I grew up with Harv in Canada. Like, they were friends since they were teenagers and shit. I helped them build the company. I was there before he launched the book. I was his COO, the COO. So I was there. I saw him launch. Like, I saw the shit that he said in the book was true. Yeah. So to me, that added a certain amount of validity. Yeah. And in the book, basically what he does is he has what's called his wealth files. And there's 17 different ways that rich people think differently than poor people. Because what he realized was that the only difference between him and people that were much more successful was the way that they thought. Okay. Yeah. It was all in the mindset. That was his big thing. Like, it's all in the mindset. You have something known as programming, which is put to you before you're even fucking conscious, when you really think about it, you were programmed even when you were in your mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
You felt things,
Yeah.
you saw things, you knew things. When you were born, everything around you programmed you to be one way or the other before you could speak, before anything. Like you were programmed to think a way about success, think a way about business, think a way about happiness. So he points to and he mainly focuses on finances, but he points at the 17 different ways that rich people are different than poor people mentally.
Yeah, how they
Rich,
think.
Yeah, exactly. So rich people work hard. I mean, poor people work hard for their money. Rich people make their money work hard for them. Poor people think either or. Rich people think why not both. People. What the fuck, man? I hear them all the time. I forget.
Yep.
You guys know what I mean.
Yep.
So anyway, that led into a 9-year journey of really taking this step heavily into the mindset.
So you've been going to Jeff's things for 9 years?
Yeah, a little bit over 9 years now.
Wow.
Really?
And this is every single Tuesday.
Yeah.
Every single Tuesday that I'm in town if I'm not traveling or whatever.
And then that just helps reestablish the connection again, right? Every single week, you're like back into, okay, millionaire mindset, and it continually repeats, right? So it makes it easier for
Yeah. What happened was that I realized that it was all made up in our mind. And I remember this was after I read the book, but before I met Jeff. So a little bit right after I read that book, I remember that one day I had a funny thought in my head. And I was like, when people say hi all the time, it always sounds the same. Hey, man, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine, man. I'm good. How you doing? Oh, I'm good. Yeah. Everybody says the same fucking shit, right? So I'm like, dude, I'm going to fuck with people.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, right? Because it was funny in my head. Like, I wasn't woke. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But I was like, every single time that people ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to fucking say I'm fucking awesome. Like, hey, man, how you doing today? Oh, I'm good. How you doing? Man, I'm fucking great, dude. I'm fucking awesome. I just wanted to see the reaction of people's face. Like, it was funny. To me, it was funny when I'm pumping gas or I'm at the Circle K or I'm at the grocery store. And the people just, like, they don't even look at you. How's your day going? Oh, good, okay. But then when you said fucking awesome, they're like, oh,
right.
Exactly. I mean, I've had people literally just hysterically fucking laugh out crying. This one time in a small town called Wickenburg, I was driving through there. I stopped by the gas station. The lady asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm fucking awesome. She started laughing like, fuck, like shit was the funniest fucking shit she ever heard in her life. I mean, just ridiculous. So I do my little thing. I buy what I'm buying. I get my coffee. I walk up. And she's still laughing, and she's like, "Fucking awesome! Like that's fucking great." She's like, "I've had the worst day today. Like I had the worst day today, and that just like really caught me off guard, and that's just doing so."
Yeah.
Anyway, I was doing that for, I don't know, a good 3 years or so. One day, me and my friend were sitting down, and he's telling me about how he's having a bad day, and I'm just like, "Dude, like, fuck, I haven't had a bad day, and I don't know." And then I really start thinking about it, and I'm like. Fucking calculating, and I'm it's been like 3 years since I've had a bad day.
Right.
This is fucking crazy, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I realized that it was all in my head.
Yeah.
Like it was all fucking made up.
That's crazy.
The problem with it was that all the bad habits that we have are made up. And they were always being reinforced. So to me, going once a week for 90 minutes, hearing the same shit was really, really small compared to the rest of the fucking time hearing all the bullshit, hearing the I'm fine, it's Monday, living paycheck to paycheck, barely getting by, fucking kids, fucking wife, fucking president,
about
fucking football
everything,
team.
Fuck. Every single little thing, I get it.
And it's funny too because like if somebody asks me like how are you doing, I'm like I'm outstanding, right? It's just a reinforcement of your subconscious. That's all. Every single time you're just reinforcing your subconscious of what you want to deliver out to.
Napoleon Hill calls it auto-suggestion.
Yeah, auto-suggestion.
Yes.
That's right.
In his book Think and Grow Rich, which is really the OG personal development book. Like that's really the thing that started the whole thing, and a lot of people really use a lot of his concepts. That was one of the things that he had was auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
People have very low self-confidence, and he had something called the self-confidence formula, and part of the self-confidence formula was auto-suggestion. How do we talk to ourselves? How do we interact with ourselves? Do we call ourselves fucking stupid? Do we call them, man, you're a fucking idiot, man. Man, if this was so and so, look at so and so making money, and I'm over here still 6 months into it, and I haven't got my first deal. Like, man, you're a fucking stupid ass Brian. Like, fuck. We unfortunately, a lot of us, most of us, pretty much every single one of us talks to ourselves, right?
Yeah. And that negative talk, that hurts you. That hurts.
It hurts
right?
worse than anything. Like, so we've all heard of women. And even men at this scenario, they're in relationships that are getting belittled by their significant other. So your wife is like, fuck you, motherfucker, you small penis piece of shit. You can't even fucking pay the fucking bills, you motherfucker.
Ouch. I feel like I'm at home right now.
Ow. So the point of that is that nobody can talk to you worse than you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
If she is telling you that shit out loud in public when everybody fucking looking at you, that means that you talk to yourself way worse than that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like, you really think. And this is why a lot of times, like, people that manipulate know how to hit those buttons and hit people's insecurities.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you hit their insecurities, then all of a sudden they're just a lot more easier to control and manipulate, mainly because they're finding validation for what it's already going on up here.
Yeah.
Like, they need that shit. You know, somebody's like, I remember one of my ex-girlfriends had really big tits, like fucking double D's, really big breasts, right? And she was always like, I'm always going to drop something. Like, watch me. This is my bib. I'm always going to catch something. And like fucking clockwork, every single fucking time she was eating, something fell on her fucking chest. I remember soon after that, I was like, oh, man, every time I wear a white shirt, it's automatically going to get stained every single time.
I feel that every time I wear something white.
Well, I used to say that.
Yeah.
Until I stopped saying that. And all of a sudden, guess what? It just stopped happening. It stopped, like, first it didn't stop automatically, but first it was little by little, by little by little. But the longer that I stopped saying that, and every time that's, like, even if it did happen, I was like, this is just a fluke. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It really controls that. And when I started realizing the power between your mind and what that does and translates into real life. Now, there's one thing that I learned, which was part in the book. This is called the process of manifestation. This is something that I go over on my program, my Unfuck Your Mindset program. But your thoughts lead to your feelings. So your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings create your actions. And your actions lead to results.
Right.
The problem is that most people only focus on actions and results. What are you doing? How many doors are you knocking? How many fucking phone calls did you do? How many RVMs did you send? How many hours did you work? You only worked 40 hours? Fucking sucker. Work 60 hours. Like, you need to do more. Yeah, I get it, but everybody really disregards the two more important parts, which is your thoughts and then your feelings. You know, if you need to control your thoughts because they lead you to feel a certain type of way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And if you feel a certain type of way, like if you came home and your wife, I don't know, your wife looked at you like she's about to start an argument, right? You already know that look. But she hasn't started an argument, but she looks at you like she's about to start the argument. And you're like, man, what the hell no. She better not be bitching about this because I already know. And you're already setting up in your mind. Like, you're fucking getting it and you're putting together, you're working yourself up, right?
Right.
And then she brings up saying, motherfucker.
So
that all started as a thought. It started as a thought. Started as a thought that eventually led you to feel a certain type of way, which made you take a certain type of action. And now you're fucking sitting in the doghouse apologizing because your wife was going to talk to you about the kids and how they fucked up. But then you put it out in your head about what you thought it was going to be. We do that a lot in our lives. So I really started noticing that the mind is really what controls us. The mind dictates how happy we are. The mind dictates how much money we make. The mind dictates how easy that's going to be or not easy it's going to be, how much we're going to struggle or not struggle. It dictates so many fucking things. And I know this sounds like a whole bunch of bullshit heebie-jeebie, but I've been living it and living it more and more and more and living a life that I couldn't even imagine when I was a fucking kid because I learned how to control the mind.
So if you don't mind me asking, what is it that you do? Like, I mean, obviously going there on Tuesdays for 9 years, that's great. But you're saying going there for 90 minutes,
It's
small.
not enough. No,
Exactly.
not enough.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, like, not your exact routine, but what is it that you do to, like, that thoughts things? I just realized that a lot too.
Mhm.
I had listened to it before with actually Jay Fagan as well. The thoughts, all this stuff. But now that the way you explained it, that made sense to me. It's like when you wake up, if you're thinking, I didn't even look at it that way.
And this is what I try to do, exactly what you're trying to say, which is I surround myself with this because it's not new information, but the way that I explained it right now resonated with you, even though you had already heard that before. So I try to be around people that are doing this, that are living this.
Yeah.
I don't have normal friends.
Yeah.
I don't. Not that there's anything bad with working a 9 to 5, but I sure as fuck don't want to work a 9 to 5. That's
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
fucking hell to me. So I don't hang out with anybody who works a 9 to 5. I want to be happy and I want to be stress free. I don't hang out with anybody who's stressed, even if they're super successful. If they're all stressed all the time, even if they're stressed part of the time, like I don't want that shit. I only hang around the stuff that I want. So what I ended up doing was through Jeff's thing, there was this guy who used to go. He gave me this. It was like a audio file, and you can look it up on YouTube. It's free. It's an audio series. It's 14 hours long called "Your Wish Is Your Command" by a guy named Kevin Trudeau, and for the first the last hour, he's literally just pitching you on something that he's selling. But the first 13 hours is just straight fucking mindset gold. Really? When I'm telling you the fucking gold, the formula's right there, right in front of you. And it's really simple, but it's so fucking difficult because it's so simple. Yeah. It's so easy to miss, like it's right in front of you, but you can't fucking see it.
Yeah.
So I listened to that over and over and over and over and over. Also, an audiobook that really, really helped me and really helped me play and stick to the long game, which is what you should do if you really want to change your mind, is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And that's the thing, is like, we've all read it, but that don't mean shit.
Right.
There's people that brag about how many fucking books they read. That don't mean dick to me. Fuck you. Fuck you. If you read 100 books in a month, how much of the information on book number 1 are you gonna retain?
Right. Yeah.
And
apply, which is even worse, because nobody even the shit that they do retain, nobody fucking applies it anyway. Yep. We talked about that shit. So I'm not impressed by people that do that. And in the book, Your Wish Is Your Command, he talks about this Shaolin monk, this Chinese monk. And he talks about this. He says the Shaolin monk sits him down and says, in the Shaolin temple, we have a saying, I don't fear the man that practices 10,000 punches one time. I fear the man that practices one punch 10,000 times. Because in this series, he had the guy was trying to get the monk to show him how to do like these secrets, right? These secret punches. And the monk was like, oh, let me show you the secret of the Shaolin monk. Let me show you how to throw a punch. And the dude was like, dude, I've been throwing punches for 15 years. I've been in martial arts since I was a kid. Like, I know how to throw punches. And the guy was like, all right, whatever. Fuck, I just want to show you how to throw a punch. And the guy's like, I don't think you get me. Like, I want to learn the secrets. Like, I want to learn the real shit that goes down in the Shaolin temple. And the monk is like, I want to show you how to throw a punch. So the guy's like, fuck. I'm trying to learn the secrets. So the monk just puts a fucking candle and he says, throw a punch and stop at exactly 1 inch before the punch. Before the candle. And the guy was like, well, what type of punch do you want me to throw? And he's naming all these fucking punches. I can do this type of punch and that type of punch. Same thing about everybody all the fucking books that they read. I read that one time somewhere 10 years ago. It's cool to quote, but it doesn't mean shit. Yeah. The Shaolin monk then lets the guy fucking throw the punch, then kind of says, all right, well, it's my turn. So he goes, he looks at the fucking candle, he steps back, he throws a really short punch and he stops about 1.5 feet away from the candle flame. The candle flame goes out. And the dude is like, how the fuck do you do that? And he's like, that's what I've been trying to tell you, bro. I'm trying to tell you how to throw a punch. The point of that is that a lot of us don't focus on the fundamentals. We want to find the newest, coolest way to fucking get the most amount of like opening on your letters or your this and your fuck you. Like, I don't deal with that shit. My mindset allows me to enter whatever arena I choose to. So I really just focus on that a lot. Between that and the compound effect, which literally just reminds you that it's the little tiny things that you do over and over and over, that you do them consistently, which is the important part.
Consistently.
They don't have to be big things. They're just little tiny things that you do over and over, produce the most amount of results. And mindset has been that. When people are always surprised. 9 years you've been going there? Fuck. Yeah. And I know fucking Jeff, dude, we read the same book. He shares the same fucking stories. He has the same fucking jokes. I already know where he's going to lead. I already know that when he says this, he's going to move it into this and he's going to dictate it here. And I already know this shit. This shit. Mm-hmm. But every other time around me, everything is just so like negative that I need to surround myself with positivity as much as possible. And that goes with everybody. I don't associate, I don't hang out, I don't date people that are not on a certain mindset
that you are.
They're going to fuck with me.
I get it.
Completely agree. Yep.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is that even a simple affirmation, like, okay, well, it sounds silly, right? So, my dad, when I was small, used to tell me, just be happy, and I was like, well, how does that work, right? I'd just be happy. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Smart man.
Like, it's really really simple. He's like, I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes,
just be happy.
I won.
Yeah.
I've already won the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I've already, just by opening my eyes, I've already won the day. And so then from the rest of the time, that's something that's embedded for me for the longest time.
That's the cliche line of Nike made famous, right? Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no other way to do it. And there's a saying that I have that there's no way to get to it unless to go through it. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to go through this shit to get to where you want to. But if you just want to be happy, you could literally make up your fucking mind right now.
I'm fucking happy.
Right, exactly. Exactly. No,
most people don't, though.
They don't.
Most people use their mindset to get in a negative mind state and then stay there for as long as fucking possible. Man, we're very self-deprecating people. You know, that's one thing I warn my brother is like, you know, I know you want to do the comedian thing, and I know you're really good at it, and you're getting your stuff. Just be careful, man, because a lot of comedians, not all of them, but a lot of comedians are very self-deprecating. Mm-hmm. Like, so it's like, oh, I'm such an idiot.
Well, a lot of their humor comes from like a dark side.
Yes.
Right.
It's like,
and when you see, like, you know, you hear all these stories about these famous, super famous comedians and all the demons and dark shit they had in it. Yeah. A lot of it comes from that really fucked up mindset that nobody took the time to really work. Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Why does that guy's shirt piss me off so much? Why does that thing really like bother me? You just, I'm sorry, honey, I shouldn't have reacted that way. But you never take the time to really think about like why the fuck did that piss me off? Why was that such a harder conversation? Which is, once again, guys, why I finally, after many years of people asking me, and I've been saying and putting it off, I finally decided to launch my program, the Unfuck Your Mindset program, because I really am just using it as a way to help people go through the same steps that I did. Mm-hmm. And if you follow the whole course, it's a 1 year long program. Wow. So it's 12 modules, and I do 4 classes per module. So basically a video a week with homework and everything, just walking you through the same steps that I did to get to Unfuck Your Mindset. And I don't say this for financial purposes, but I truly believe that when the people finish the course, the best thing to do is start all over and go, because you're going to be in a completely different mindset, and you're going to be able to tackle these things, which is why I go to Jeff's shit over and over. We're tackling the same issues, but this time I'm diving deeper and deeper and deeper. And there may be things that he's been saying for fucking 10 years
And didn't really
that I didn't like. It didn't resonate. It didn't hear it until I heard it this time because I'm going through that thing in my life at this point.
Yeah, when you said that, the reason why I was laughing was because, like, why am I always upset at traffic? And the funny thing is, I'm yelling at somebody else about something stupid on a car. Or
They can't
whatever.
even fucking hear you.
Right, they can't hear you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the only one pissing myself off,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
it's one of
right.
those things. Is like, you can tell yourself you got to be better, but not until you actually make the decision to
And that's
actually do
that
it.
right
and
there.
your
That's
subconscious
mindset.
aligns with that. Yeah,
It's
that's
all in
it.
your mind. You
Yeah.
you make that decision that I'm not gonna focus on that thought.
Yep.
So one thing that I will leave your listeners to is one thing that my mentor teaches me all the time: what we focus on expands. Whatever we focus on, like whatever. Door knocking is hard. Okay, well, it's gonna be hard for you.
Yep.
You just said it.
Yep.
Life is tough. Yeah,
Life is
of
gonna
course
be
it
tough,
is. Yeah. It takes money to make money. Yeah, of course. The rich get richer. Sure.
That's gonna expand.
There's no good women out there. There's no good men out there. There's no everybody's a crook. Everybody's a liar. Everybody's looking. Sure.
Oh, yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck you say. You're right.
I love that one.
Absolutely.
What we focus on expands.
Expands. yeah.
Before we wind it down, then can you tell us where we can find you social media wise?
Yes. So make sure that you do yourself a favor and follow me on Instagram at Cashflow Creator. I say that because I'm always maxing out on my fucking Facebook. I'm probably going to be opening up a Facebook page for my Unfuck Your Mindset program.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, at Cashflow Creator, I post on my stories constantly. I'm a very open book about my life. You can check out my travels, especially when I travel. You guys have seen my shit when I travel. Like I don't do regular stuff. I don't go to resorts and stuff. So I hit the corners, I hit the alleys, I hit the streets.
You meet people there and you travel with
I
them?
travel.
I see
I
that.
don't like seriously. I do that shit and I post everything, like the whole fucking trip. I post it on my social media. So that's one way you can find me. You can also find me on iTunes and anywhere else that you look for podcasts for Unfuck Your Mindset. Make sure that you substitute the U for a star on the word fuck, but Unfuck Your Mindset. And you can find me on our program, which we're launching here, called unfuckyourmindset.com. And as I said, that's the program where I go and I break down. So on the podcast, I talk about these issues. And then we interview people and we talk about mindset, the mindset it takes to get to different levels of success, depending on, regardless of what place you're in. I touch on these points. On the program, I dive deeper into how to actually do it. But that's the easiest way for you guys to get a hold of me is on Instagram, and then follow me on. Make sure that you subscribe. Yep. Make sure that you download.
Cool.
Make sure that you give me a 5-star review.
And we'll put them on there on that. When we
On the
post
links,
the show, we'll put
yep.
the links on there.
Yeah, and if I can start fucking charting in another country outside of the two that I'm at now, then I'm even better.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
All right.
appreciate that you came
Thanks,
out,
Brian.
man. That's a lot of
Appreciate it,
knowledge,
buddy.
man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Nope, thanks a lot. And mahalo. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
All right.
Thanks, dude. That was awesome. That was awesome.